I think Simplicity's done a really great job coming up with very specific things advisors can do in the lead up to the event to help maximize the attendance. And not only are these activities going to help maximize the attendance, they're really also going to help the advisor build their credibility, the level of professionalism prior to the event, which really should help them connect and build more trust going into the event.
Welcome, Model FAs. David DeSell here, president of Model FA, and I am very excited to bring you today's guest, Natalie Grassi. So Natalie was introduced to me by a former guest, actually, and a good friend of mine, Brad Swinehart. So Brad, if you're listening to this episode, big thank you to you. Natalie Grassi is an advisor development consultant at Simplicity Scottsdale. Natalie specializes in helping advisors overcome the common challenges they face so they can reach their goals more quickly. She has created marketing plans for top performers and has coached hundreds of advisors on seminar best practices. So with that being said, Natalie, welcome to the show, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. I'm very excited to be here with you today.
Awesome. One quick thing, I want to thank Natalie. So we've had to reschedule a timer due to what I thought were Wi-Fi issues, and come to find out there were no Wi-Fi issues. I was just connected to the apartment a couple doors down that I used to live in. So I appreciate your patience with scheduling, but glad that we're here now.
Yeah, I'm happy it worked out too, and no worries. Happy it worked out today.
Awesome. So for our listeners who are tuning in, and we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about marketing for financial advisors. We'll probably have a specific tilt towards seminar marketing, which I know people have different views on in today's environment with COVID and all that type of stuff. Yet they've seen that a lot of the advisors that they're working with are still having success with seminars. So we'll be talking about that today. But before we do so, tell us a little bit about your background in the industry. That way we have a sense as to some of your experience so far.
Sure. So my industry experience started in 2017 when I started at White Glove. Prior to that, I actually was a teacher, elementary school, for 8 years, and totally shifted from elementary school to working with financial advisors when I started at White Glove in the fall of 2017. And I think it was really there that I really realized I have a passion for working with advisors, serving advisors, and really loved seeing them be successful through the strategies and different ideas I shared with them. So that's where I started over at White Glove. I was there for 4.5 years, coaching advisors on seminar best practices, helping them with their marketing plans. I had the opportunity to travel to a lot of industry events while I was over there, many different FMO events, training events for advisors, saw some of the best speaking coaches in the industry, Pat Quinn, Josh Jones, Frank Maselli. So I have a lot of knowledge that I've learned from many of these people in my time over there at White Glove. And in January of this year, I started here at Simplicity Scottsdale. So I really just wanted to have a bigger impact on advisors' businesses. And that's what I'm able to do here. Rather than just staying in the seminar space, I'm able to help them with their entire business and many of the challenges they overcome, not just in the seminar space.
Awesome. So before we get into some of the marketing stuff that we'll talk through today, what is Simplicity Scottsdale? Like, what do you guys actually do, just so we have some context?
Oh, sure. So Simplicity Scottsdale, we are a FMO, IMO. We come alongside advisors to really help them reach their goals more quickly. And I know there's a lot of different companies in the FMO, IMO space, David, and I think there's different levels of service and support that FMOs, IMOs provide. You know, what I've learned is the most basic level is really just product and comp. So giving the advisors access to product and paying them out. Maybe the next level up is service and support. So case designs, illustrations, really helping them prepare plans for their clients, and some FMOs do that. The level above that, like I said, is really coming alongside advisors as a true partner and helping them reach their goals. So really getting to know them, what makes them unique, and putting a plan in place specifically for them. So I'd say that's really where we are at Simplicity. In addition to the product and comp and the service and support, we're really true partners to advisors and get to know them and their goals and help them reach them.
Awesome. So before we get into seminar specific marketing, let's start a little bit more general to begin with. So as you're working with advisors, whether that be currently or, in the past in your prior role, what are some things that advisors should take into consideration as they begin to develop their overall marketing plan?
Yeah, I think one of the very first things to consider when they're creating a marketing plan is their overall goals for the year. So sitting down and really identifying what their goals are, whether that's the amount of AUM they want to capture, a number of new clients they want to bring on, an annuity production goal, really sitting down and identifying what it is they're hoping to accomplish that year so they know exactly what the target is. And once they come up with that goal, I think they really want to reverse engineer a marketing plan. So if they can identify, hey, I want to bring on, say, 36 new clients this year. Well, obviously that's 3 new clients monthly. And so we have to identify what type of marketing is going to help them bring on 3 new clients. And once they know that number, we can look at different activities and data we have behind those different activities to help them identify the volume of activity they need to do to reach that goal. And again, David, I work with advisors who have goals around number of clients they want or annuity production goals or capturing a certain amount of AUM. And we look at whatever those goals are and kind of work backwards to identify monthly how we can put that plan in place. And then once we have the information, again, just really making that plan. So looking at all these different resources and tools that we have available and inserting these in an appropriate place. And I really think it's important to have a long-term marketing plan. I think a lot of advisors sometimes want to jump around from different activity to different activity because they didn't get the results they wanted immediately with one thing. I really encourage advisors to have a long-term marketing plan with a mix of different items in there and stick with these activities for some time until they can really determine if they're working. And rather than just dumping them if they think they're not working, trying to dial in and really work out the kinks in these activities so that they are seeing the results they want, whether that's 3 clients a month, 2 million in annuity production a month, 3 million in new AUM a month, really working out the kinks to dial in the results they want.
So you bring up a couple interesting points that I notice as well in working with advisors. And there's a lot of folks who are super dialed in and have a great strategy, but there's other folks who are just kind of blindly marketing with no real purpose or direction. I think you bring up a good point in terms of figuring out like, what are you actually doing this for? Like, why are you doing seminars or why are you doing a podcast? Why are you doing whatever it may be? Why are you posting content? And having something to measure your activity and success against, as opposed to just making a determination based on how you feel it's working. And then the other thing too is oftentimes with marketing, depending on the strategy, they take some time to work themselves out, right? And you can't necessarily expect to, put together a new marketing plan and, the next couple of weeks, new clients start rolling in. It typically takes some time. So it's committing, as you had referenced, to a longer time frame to determine if something's working. And before you would just immediately go to something else, if it's not, are there any levers that you can adjust on your current marketing strategy to make that much more successful? So to your point, I think advisors are very quick to jump from one thing to the next without giving it time needed to determine if it actually works.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think another thing I see is advisors scrambling. So they do something for a few months, it doesn't work out the way they thought, or they didn't put a long-term plan in place. So then they're like, I'm not where I want to be. I'm halfway through the year and I'm not where I want to be, and scrambling, looking for another option rather than in the beginning of the year, really sitting down, putting a plan in place. And again, most companies are able to give you data and expectations of what to expect from marketing. So if you really look at that data and the expectations and you keep your plan in place, you should see the results that they're anticipating.
For sure. Now, in, I guess, working with some of the top advisors that you've worked with over the years and that you work with currently, what are some similarities that they have? Like, what are some of their, best practices and things that they have in common with the folks who are knocking the cover off the ball?
Yeah. So I have been really fortunate to work with a lot of top advisors in my time at White Glove and now my time here at Simplicity. And I think I've been able to help them a lot with their business, but in the same breath, they've helped me learn so much about what makes effective advisors effective. So I would say these advisors, one thing is they do really understand the importance of activity. So I know a lot of new advisors are really hesitant to spend, the founder of White Glove, Dean Thurman, he told me a story when he started as a financial advisor. He had to use his mom's credit card to buy his first seminar. And I know how difficult it is from talking to advisors to have those funds available to start activity in the beginning. But I think the top advisors understand the importance of the activity. They know that if they continue activity, they will keep their their funnel full. And just like we were just talking about, that's what's really going to produce results over time. So recognize the importance of activity and continue activity, whether it's seminars, buying digital leads, like you said, posting content, digital mailing direct mailing campaigns, whatever it is, they're doing something to continue to be active and keep their marketing funnel full. And then I think they're flexible and adaptable. I think, last year taught us all that you never really know what's coming at you, and you really have to be flexible and adaptable. And that's what I see in the top advisors. Even the advisors who've been doing this for years and years and years, the best of them don't say, I'm going to continue doing what I've always done because it's how I do it. They're looking for new ideas. They're looking for recommendations, trainings, things that are going to help them continue to get better. So I think really being flexible and adaptable is a huge part of being effective in this industry and changing as time changes. And I'd say lastly, they track their results. It is so incredibly important to track your results. Like I said, I am a huge proponent of sticking with something for a significant amount of time to see if it's effective, but there's no way to know if it's effective unless you're tracking results from your activity. In fact, I talked to an advisor a couple of weeks ago and he had several things going on. He was doing seminar marketing. He was buying digital leads, like from a digital lead vendor. He also was doing some LinkedIn marketing. And he told me, I know all of them are working because I have business coming in. And he said, talk to my assistant. You can figure out where the business is coming from. That's something I do over here is help advisors kind of identify where they're at and help them get to where they want to be. And in talking to his assistant, Megan, she helped me identify for him that he had no business that had come in from 12 months of the digital campaigns or the LinkedIn. So he's thinking, hey, business is coming in, but he's not tracking where it's come from. So he's continuing to pay for this method for him that it was not effective. Doesn't mean he needs to stop doing it, but he needs to figure out how to make it effective if it's something that's not working. So you really have to track your results and monitor those results and either dial in and adjust things to make things more effective, or if you've done something for a long time and it's not working, remove that from your marketing plan.
Well, you bring up a good point because I've heard opposite things from advisors, just as I've heard the same thing from advisors with what you just said, but there's plenty of advisors that I know that aren't successful with seminars, but they are with digital leads, or maybe they are crushing it on LinkedIn and they're not with digital leads or seminars. So to your point, when you're doing a good job tracking and measuring results from specific sources that you're allocating your marketing dollars to. So I think it's important to have, especially if you're just starting off with this, like having multiple lines in the water to determine what's working and what's not. And let's say, this person had already tried to shift certain levers and still the digital leads or LinkedIn wasn't working. Well, it's like, cool. Well, if seminars in this example are working, reallocate the dollars that you're spending on the other two marketing strategies and pivot it over to seminars and just dump it on there because it's working really well right now. So I think it gives you an opportunity to determine where your dollars should be spent. And then depending on geography, depending on the advisor, depending on a multitude of different variables will determine which strategy is most successful. But if you're not tracking and measuring it appropriately, you're kind of just throwing money in the air and hoping that things land when they're supposed to. So I agree with that a lot.
Right. And I can see how as an advisor, it's probably very difficult to track things. I mean, advisors have so much going on. So I'm sure they're just like on to the next client meeting, marketing event, whatever it is. And they forget the importance of looking back and really identifying where the business is coming from and what's most effective for them. So I understand it's difficult, but I know it's very, very important for them to continue to do that. And David, something else that I just wanted to mention, I am a huge proponent of seminars. I love seminars, but I do definitely know advisors who have not had success with them. So I will acknowledge that you definitely have to find what's a good fit for you, whether it's seminar marketing or digital leads. You really have to find what's most effective for you, your personality, your style, the capacity you have to see people and really dial in what's going to be most effective for you.
For sure. So I had an assumption coming into today's call. So as we sit here today, we're recording this on September 2nd. It will probably be released at some point in like the November-ish timeframe. And one of the topics that we had discussed initially that you could speak to is seminars. And I opened up the call before we started recording saying, hey, maybe we stay away from that because, the world is still kind of iffy right now with COVID and whatnot. And you actually shared a different sentiment and, alluded to the fact that seminars are actually working pretty well right now. With that being said, I'm sure it differs based on geography to a degree. So like you're calling in, if I'm not mistaken, from Scottsdale, Arizona.
Right.
I'm calling in from Florida. So in terms of COVID and restrictions, like our states are a lot different than like a California or New York, right? So
Absolutely.
I'm sure to a degree, geography certainly has an impact, but share with me what you're seeing in the seminar space currently as it relates to, some success stories or, what people are doing to still actually run those events in today's ever-changing environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I was pulling up some data actually when we were talking here, David, to look at some specific numbers I could share with you. But as you said, when we started talking, you're like, hey, maybe we should shift away from the seminar conversation. And I definitely was going to let you lead and do what you decided to do. But you said, unless you think something other than that. And I shared with you that we have seen the strongest numbers in August as far as responses to direct mail campaigns than any other time this year. So I don't know what the cause of that is. Of course, we have some guesses. Is it pent-up demand, people ready to come out after not being out for so long? Usually August tends to be a lower number for seminar attendance.
Right.
It's seasonality of it. Typically, there's fewer people who are attending seminars, but we're really seeing a better response than we've seen the rest of the year. Another factor that may be playing a role in the incredible attendance that advisors are seeing is a lot of advisors are nervous to host seminars right now because of everything that's going on. So maybe the saturation of events is way down. So because there's fewer events available, more people are registering for the events that are out there. But, I'm just looking August 16th and August 19th, I work with an advisor in Minnesota. He had a 2-night event, 33 registrations for the first event, 28 registrations for the second. So really strong responses there. He had a capacity of 30. So he was slightly over on the first. So 33 and 28. I don't have the other advisors' results up, but in July, he actually was in New Jersey, which is a state that you would think would be a little concerning. He added a third night to his campaign. So we had 2 nights booked, 30 capacity for each of those nights, reached capacity, added a third night. So I know it's a scary time to do seminars because the last thing you want is to put out a direct mail piece and have a venue shut down or have a low response because people are concerned to come out. So I understand that, but I can just share with you that what we're seeing right now, people are registering and coming out. And, we work with a great partner, Lead Jig Acquire Direct here at Simplicity. But another great option, and can't help but plug them, I love White Glove. Another great option is White Glove. Yeah. You only pay for the households that actually attend. So that's something to consider right now. White Glove's taking all the risk for you. You can book an event. If you have an event scheduled for September 15th and the day before the event, the venue closes, White Glove eats the cost of marketing for you. You only pay for the people who actually attend. So something to consider if you still want to do events and you're nervous about a direct mail campaign right now.
Well, it's interesting. You shared a couple examples, Minnesota and New Jersey that one would assume, were areas in which you would not get high attendance or local, rules and regulations wouldn't allow for it. But I guess growing up, my mom told me the saying about why you should not assume certain things. So it's interesting that take that you have or the data that you have to prove otherwise, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah. And I was shocked by it too. Totally shocked to see these numbers. Like I said, I can't make any guess as to what's going to continue to happen over the next couple of months. I can just share with you what I see here. And we've been really pleasantly surprised with the responses.
Well, it's cool too, because there's, some advisors who are hiding under their desk, so to speak, as it relates to marketing and like waiting for the world to open. And there's others that are, capitalizing on less competition with these strategies. And like you said, simple supply and demand. If there aren't a lot of events, the demand of those events goes up. So I think it's a good take on it. So let's keep going down the seminar path. So you alluded to some stats specifically around registrations. Now, we know that to a degree, registrations don't matter if none of them actually show up. So with that being said, what are some things that advisors can do? Because I have some ideas, but I'd like to see what yours are and kind of compare notes today. But what are some ideas that you have to increase the conversion rate from registration to actually butts in the seat?
Obviously, like you said, it's very important to not only get those registrations, but to make sure you maximize that attendance. So getting those people from registrants into the door to actually have some time to connect with these people. And I think Simplicity's done a really great job coming up with some very specific things advisors can do in the lead up to the event to help maximize the attendance. And not only are these activities going to help maximize the attendance, they're really also going to help the advisor build their credibility, the level of professionalism prior to the event, event, which really should help them connect and build more trust going into the event. But some specific things that I think advisors should be doing at the point of registration, as soon as someone registers for that event, the advisor should be getting on the phone or someone in the office and calling that individual as soon as possible after registration to thank them for registering, see if they have any questions, really put a personality to that paper invitation so that they realize, hey, there's someone behind this invitation who's looking forward to seeing you at the event. And we have some great scripting around that, as many marketing companies do, or LeadJig, White Glove. They all can give you scripts that you can use to make a registration call to really solidify that connection with the registrant. Then another thing that Simplicity recommends that I've seen really increase the attendance rate is sending a registration packet by mail. And there's very specific items that you can put in there. One thing, David, we recommend that you put a name tag in there. And once we started putting the name tag in the registration packet, we saw spikes in the attendance rate. So something as simple as sending someone a name tag. So again, they're realizing I actually registered for something. There's an event that's going to take place. I need to be there. It really increases the attendance rate. And we put several other things inside here, a letter thanking the individuals for attending, some course-specific materials, direction sheets to the venue. So some things that really help solidify the registration to coming in, and also, like I said, build the advisor's credibility and professionalism even before the event. Something else we recommend, which I personally love, I'm a big fan of BombBomb. We like advisors to take a video of themselves in front of the venue and send it to the attendees. So, hey, looking forward to seeing you next Tuesday at the community center, showing the venue behind them. When you walk in the doors, you're going to turn to the right. Here's the room right here. Looking forward to seeing you here. Really just giving people a sense of what to expect. You want happy attendees. And if there's anything complicated, parking, finding the venue, finding the room, any of these things can make people grumpy. So sending this BombBomb ahead of time, again, connecting with these people ahead of time and making it very easy for them to get to your event is always a really good idea. And then, of course, there's a very specific sequence of text message reminder, phone call reminders, and emails that advisors should be putting in place to not only make the call at point of registration, but then make a call just before the event to really, again, solidify the attendance there.
I'm smirking for those of you who are just listening to the audio right now. And I'm smirking because there's some things that you shared that I think are improvements upon some of the advice that I've been giving. And there's some things that you shared that I never even thought of, which is just, it's a testament to the importance of not just advisors, but like companies like ours to connect and collaborate for the purpose of better serving the advisor and making sure that they have a good experience regardless of what it is that they're doing. So I want to just kind of reiterate and highlight some of the things that you had mentioned. So similar to BombBomb, we suggest a service called Loom, which is very similar in nature in terms of a lightweight tool to be able to do video. And we would always suggest that folks, shoot an introduction video, like they shoot it one time and send it out a bunch of times just to save on their time. Send it out so that the attendees can actually put a face to the name and hear your voice, get to feel your mannerisms, get them excited about going. But the add-on that you shared about doing the video outside the venue, I think is freaking awesome. I think that's such a good idea. So I think that's an improvement upon what I've been sharing with folks. And then the whole name tag thing, it's something that's such a small thing that I don't think a lot of people would think about. And I would imagine that a lot of advisors, if they use name tags, they're like the sticky ones that they fill out at the, door before they walk in and, slap it on their chest. But being able to, spend $1 or $2 on, whatever a name tag costs and send it out in advance, it's just more legit, to your point, and it makes them realize, like, I signed up for an event, like there is a seat for me, and they spent the time and the money to send this out. So I think that stuff is awesome to increase attendance. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, I think a lot of advisors are like, oh, these little things don't make a difference. And I think what they really need to keep in mind is it's all these little things that make the biggest difference. So it's the sum of all these small things that they're doing that are going to really have an impact on the results. So I would encourage advisors not to say like, oh, I don't want to spend $2 on a lanyard, or I want to jip here and not get nice bottled water and individually wrapped snacks. I don't want to spend money there. It's all these little things that really are creating an experience for the attendees that's going to make them more likely to take the next step with you. So, and I know that can be a lot of work, and Simplicity, as well as other companies, they'll help you with all this. We make the name tags, we customize the direction sheets, we write the letters for you, make it super simple. So all you have to do is print the packages and hand them out. now. And there are other companies that will do that too. So don't feel like you have to take the weight of that on. Find someone who can support you in that if it's not something that you have the capacity to do independently, because those little things are important.
For sure.
Hey, Model FAs. I know you're enjoying this conversation, but I wanted to take a quick break to talk to you about the Model FA Accelerator. This is a unique collaboration between us and you, where we help you build a financial advising practice that you can be proud of. We focus on the foundational concepts around how to pick a niche or a specialization, how to price your services, how to construct an offer that people are going to buy, and then how to market it and sell it in a way that'll get people to sign on the dotted line and become clients of your firm, all while giving you the information to scale and set up workflows and operational processes that will allow you to reclaim your time and build a practice that doesn't run you. So if you'd like to hear more about that, go to www.modelfa.com/accelerator or www.modelfa.com. Hover over Work With Us and click on Accelerator. Hope to see you in the program.
And I would add one thing I forgot to share is in between when they register and when they show up for the event, implement, all the things that you shared. But in addition to that, I would invite them to connect with you on the social platforms that you use. And that includes more than just LinkedIn. Because, let's be real. If you're hosting a seminar, what type of people are showing up for that? Probably folks who are either done working or about to be done working. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get a 20 or 30-year-old to show up for a seminar, most likely. So they're not really utilizing LinkedIn. I know that this makes some folks skin crawl, but to the degree that you can get over that and invite them to connect with you on Facebook or invite them to connect with you on Instagram, people like to do business with folks who they know, like, and trust. And they're only going to get one specific side of you in that seminar. Sure, you can add your own personality to it to a degree, but you're there to talk business and finance and helping them with that stuff. But if they're able to connect with you on these platforms, a couple things happen. One, social media does a great job of leaving clues as to what you're into and the things that you like to do with your family and friends. And perhaps there's a connection point there that gets them to be like, oh my God, they like that too. Like, I really like that. Mm-hmm. And also, I think that trust is built not just based on elapsed time, but based on the accumulation of experiences. And every time they scroll through your profile and get to see what you're up to, they're adding more experiences of you to their brain. So they show up to that event feeling like, I don't know what it is, but I already know this guy or I already know this gal. And I think it only helps elevate, assuming that your social media isn't overly polarizing, with the topics that you're not supposed to talk about, in public with politics, religion, all that type of stuff. But I do think it gives them an opportunity to get to know you on a deeper level in advance of that seminar itself. So we talked about how to increase the conversion rate from registrations to actual butts in the seat. Let's talk about how we can, during the seminar, how we can increase the rate of appointments booked from the people who show up.
Yes, we can definitely talk about that. Before I do that, I just want to compliment you on your social media, because I do feel connected to you probably much more than you feel connected to me, because I started following you on Instagram a few months ago when I knew I was going to do this podcast with you. You have a great Instagram presence. I know you meditate. I know you exercise daily. I know when you're reading certain books, who you're interviewing for your podcast. Sometimes you put your calendar up there and you spend time on your boat with your friends and family. So I can really speak to how much connecting with someone on social media makes you feel connected to them even before having a real relationship with them. So you do a great job on your social media. And one more thing I want to mention there before we move on to best practices, David, is Lead Jig and Acquire Direct. I do want to talk about some of the value I see in them. I think there's different companies that do different things well, but one thing they do really well is they provide you data ahead of time for the attendees. So not only do you get their name, phone number, email address that you get for most marketing companies, but they will provide you with any social media data that they can find. So whether that's a LinkedIn profile, Facebook profile, Zillow, home, address, you can see their exact house, go to their doorstep. It's pretty incredible. So to your point, if you're working with Lead Jig, if they find any of that data, they give it to you. And I would encourage people to go on, make connections on Facebook, LinkedIn, as long as the advisor does have a presence that's appropriate for a professional setting. But they make it very easy for you to do that. So I think that's a great recommendation that you just gave.
Awesome. So let's talk about how do we increase the conversion rate from folks who show up to actual appointments on the calendar? Because I know seminars is based basically just a big math equation, right? And if it shakes out to where it's a profitable equation, it's like, cool, let's dump a bunch of money into it and just rinse and repeat. So how do we make sure that folks are getting the appropriate ROI?
Yeah, so there are so many things that you can do at seminars, little things, like I said, that have a big impact on results. And I want to share a couple ideas that I think are things people can walk away and implement if they had seminars tonight that will have an impact on the results. But again, I mean, we could spend hours talking about best practices. So I really think it's important that advisors do take time to find people who are successful in the space, so other advisors who are doing it well and share ideas, or people like, myself, White Glove, Lead Jig, who have a lot of experience. When I was over at White Glove, I was working with advisors on about 100 events a month. So in my time there, I saw thousands of events take place. So I really know here's what was working well, here's what wasn't, and seeing these different speaking coaches who really share a lot of great ideas. But a couple things, David, that I can share that people can walk away and do tonight. We know that the main reason people work with an advisor is because they trust them. And one of the fastest, easiest ways to build trust is through storytelling. So really want to encourage advisors to do some storytelling in their seminars. And I would say you really want to start with a strong opening. And I would recommend that someone else introduce you, whether that's a staff member of yours or your husband, your wife, friend of the family, someone who can get up there and introduce you, do the housekeeping. We know you'll have 7 seconds to make a first impression, and you want your first words to be words that are getting people to lean in, not telling them to turn their phone off and where the bathrooms are. So I'd really recommend that you let someone else get up and introduce you, and then you come out there with a strong opening with some sort of story. And here at Simplicity, we coach the founder story. We talk about very specific components that should be in there, very specific structure that you should use. But there's lots of people who have great ideas around this. Frank Maselli is one of my favorites. He has great ideas around a power opening. All of his stuff is on his resource vault. He's so kind to share that all for free. Deirdre Van Est has a lot of ideas around storytelling and how to effectively use a story in the start of your seminar to capture people's attention, get them leaning in. So I'd really encourage that advisors start with a strong opening. Again, not the predictable pleasantries, not housekeeping, something that's putting you in a position of vulnerability, most likely, letting people know, hey, I'm ordinary just like you. I'm also extraordinary because I'm going to protect your money. So there's different things you can do to do all this in one in a story at the beginning. So I would really come out strong with a strong opening.
Right. We've talked about a couple main themes so far. One is storytelling, and another one is making sure that it's an amazing experience. So there's 2 books that come to mind that I just want to toss out there, for the folks who are listening. One I have right here on my desk is called What Great Salespeople Do. And it talks about the power of storytelling, but it goes into detail as to how to actually construct different types of stories. So like the who I am story, the what I do story, who I work with story. And it gets as granular as different colored note cards to figure out those different steps of the story with like the setting and the resolution and everything in between. You attach a particular emotion that you want the audience to feel with each of those stages. So it's a very granular approach to crafting a story as opposed to tell a story, right? It gets into the details. And the other book, probably my most recommended book, is called Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh, who is the late founder of Zappos. And Delivering Happiness is all about making sure that you have an unbelievable experience for the people who are buying your product or service. So I think those 2 books, What Great Salespeople Do for storytelling and Delivering Happiness for client experience, would have a big impact on your career for those of you who are listening. And obviously, if you haven't read them yet, would suggest, because I think it would give you some more tools and ideas to share with folks as you meet with them.
I love that. You probably saw me Googling them both while you were talking about them. So they're both on my screen right now to check out after this podcast. So yeah, and I think it's very important. I'm happy you brought that up, that you really have to have specific stories in mind and practice those stories. So when you deliver the stories, they are effective. Have a purpose for why you're telling the story, a strategic reason why you're telling the story. Like you might want to tell a desirability story. So telling someone, hey, I know this is the desired state you want to be in. Let me tell you a story of how I helped someone else get there. And these people who are at your seminars, they're not like your friends who will kind of let you ramble on, tell a story that, diverts in different directions and where am I at? Oh, let me get back to my point. This is what I was meaning to tell you. Your friends will sit there and listen to that. At a seminar, seminar or in a meeting, you have to have a very concise story that you're delivering for a purpose. So being very strategic with your storytelling. And I'm happy you shared those books. And again, there's lots of people who coach to this out there to really help you figure out what your story should be and how to use these stories effectively. And I think the great thing is, David, once you come up with these stories, you can use them in different settings. You can use them at seminars. You can use them while you're networking. You can use them in the first appointment. So once you come up with these stories, memorize these stories, and an effective way to tell them, you can use them over and over and over again.
Love it. So stories is one way that folks can increase the conversion rate from people who show up to appointments. What are some other things that they can be doing to increase that conversion rate?
Yeah, super simple. Use attendees' names. I've been to a lot of seminars, and the most effective advisors are able to weave in every person's name in the room throughout the seminar. We know that one of the most effective words you can say to someone is their own name. People love hearing their own names. So you're giving out these lanyards ahead of the event or providing name tags of some sort, table tents, something so that while you're presenting up there, the names are large enough that you can see them. And as you're talking, you're incorporating people's names. It makes people feel more connected to you, like they've already had a conversation with you prior to the event. So if you're standing in the front of the room, I mean, there's so many ways you can do it. Right at the beginning, one thing I recommend advisors do is that they use a response form and introduce a response form right at the beginning. And on top, I like when they write, what are 3 reasons why you're here tonight, or what brought you in tonight? List 3 things that brought you in here tonight. What are you hoping to learn? And so right at the beginning, after they do that power opening, tell a story, get people leaning in, ask people to take that out, and then write down reasons why they're there tonight. Let them know, hey, my commitment to you is none of your questions will go unanswered. You got that paper invitation in the mail. I'd love to hear, what are you hoping to learn? What are 3 reasons why you're here tonight? And then as they're filling it out, you kind of walk around, give them a couple minutes. David, awesome. I see you have a couple reasons listed there. John, I see you have your reasons listed there. Pam, you're all set. I always use my mom and dad's name. John, you're all set. Pam, you're all set. Mary, great. You have a few reasons there. I see they're similar to Pam's. So using people's names as you're going around the room, you might say while you're standing up there, hey, I was in this room 2 months ago giving this exact same presentation, and someone sat in this seat right there where you're sitting tonight, David. And after the event, they came back to my office. So very easy to just start using people's names. You don't want to make it awkward. So your goal might not be to use every person's name in the room at the first event, but slowly start using people's name in these scenarios where it's appropriate, because people will feel more connected to you if you're using their name. A really easy one you can walk away and use tonight. Another one is use your own name. So when I heard this the first time, I was like, that sounds so simple. But now I notice advisors doing it in presentations. And when I go to presentations, people do it. I think it is very effective. It allows the attendee to start picturing themselves having a conversation with you. So you might say, hey, continuing my last example, David, I was in this room giving a presentation right here, and someone sat right there where you're sitting tonight, David. And after the event, they came up to me and they said, hey, Natalie, I really enjoyed the presentation. I have a lot of questions around Social Security. You really helped me out. And he actually came back to my office, sat down with me and sat across the table. And again, he just said, Natalie, I am so confused. My neighbor's doing one thing. My friend's doing another thing. My sister's doing another thing. I don't know how to maximize the benefit for me. Can you help me with that? So using your name multiple times throughout the seminar so people can start visualizing themselves having that conversation with you.
I've loved learning about both in college as my minor, but then since then through, books and podcasts. I love the psychology side of sales, and you're hitting on all those soft skills that aren't like aggressive sales tactics by any means, but someone, to your point, like they're sitting there and they're like, I don't know what it is about this person, but like, I feel really comfortable and I feel like I can have a conversation with them. And it's like those just little tips and tricks. So to your point, I feel like we could talk all day about this stuff. So let's go to that next phase before we wrap up. So we've talked about registration to people who show up, to scheduling appointments. And now we have to go through people scheduling appointments to actually becoming a client. So what's an idea or two that advisors can implement to help that conversion rate and really, bring them through the sales process in an appropriate way to increase the likelihood that they actually do business?
So again, just like if you can't get the registrants into attendees, there's no purpose in having a seminar. If you can't get the attendees back to your office, there's no purpose in having the seminar. So the first thing, I'll go into the sales process, but the first thing I'll say is just like the registration packet serves a really important purpose, there are things you can do between the end of the seminar and that first appointment to increase your sticky rate. So that's something I encourage advisors track, the number of people who requested the appointment to the number of people who actually showed. So you might leave a seminar feeling so good. I get a 75% appointment request rate. That's incredible. But then only 25% of the people who book the appointments actually show. So you got to figure out, are all the people who request showing? And there are some things you can do at the tail end of the seminar. I'd suggest that when people are booking the appointment, you give them a strategy session packet. The same idea of the registration packet. It's going to make that event seem real, give them some materials that are going to help them understand what will happen in that first meeting, give them something to look forward to, set expectations. That registration packet will do that. So you're going to increase your sticky rate. And again, we have some specific items we coach to, as do many people, to really make sure the advisor has a simple strategy session packet to deliver to people to bring them in for the strategy session. Between the seminar and the event, I'd recommend that you send out a confirmation letter by mail. Again, just really solidifying that appointment, making it memorable to individuals, and doing a confirmation call, text message reminder, and email. Seems like a lot of touches, but I think if you are really thoughtful in the way you're doing these touches, no one's going to mind. So, hey, David, I know you booked an appointment. I sent you a letter in the mail. I want to make sure you received that and that you plan to come in and see us tomorrow. We're really looking forward to the appointment. I see on your evaluation form here, you listed that there's 3 different things you want to talk about. I'm really looking forward to connecting with you on those items tomorrow and answering any questions you have. So as long as you're thoughtful in your approach, I don't think people will get irritated by multiple touches. I think it's going to help you increase that sticky rate. And then as far as sales process, I think there's very specific things you can do. And I've really learned a lot more about this here at Simplicity because, to be honest, like White Glove, I helped advisors, like I said, seminar space, getting people from the seminar back to the office. And that was kind of where I stopped at White Glove. But in the last 8 months here at Simplicity, I've had a lot of training and I've personally received a lot of coaching on how to coach advisors to more effectively close clients. And I would say one of the things that really stood out to me is that first meeting, the discovery meeting. And you said this today, never make assumptions. What I've really learned and heard here is that advisors work with a lot of clients. I think they start suddenly thinking that a lot of these clients are similar, and they start making assumptions about what they need or what their pain points are. So I would say in that discovery meeting, you really have to use some specific questions to find out what that prospect's specific pain points are and how you can help them. Not just assume that they're like everyone else you've helped because they're a retiree. Really dive into the details of what their pain points are and just be passionately curious, asking lots of questions, getting to know them, and that will really, really help you identify kind of their prospects' pain. And something else we really coach at Simplicity that I've learned a lot more about here, even when I'm working with advisors themselves and try to figure out how I can help them and support them, is the question funnel. Are you familiar with the whole idea of question funnel? I know you have so much knowledge, but the idea of the question funnel?
No, not that specific terminology. So please elaborate.
Yeah. So, the whole idea that basically you're going to ask a very general question. So you might ask something like, what are some of your financial concerns or challenges you have? And the prospect might say, well, honestly, we're just worried we're going to run out of money. And some advisors might just stop there. Oh, they're going to run out of money. They need an annuity. They need some guaranteed income. But that's not what you need to do there. You really need to ask a more specific question. And we trained a language you can use for this. But what we've discovered is that a common concern among many people, just like you, is running out of money. Can you help me understand a little bit more as to why that's one of your primary concerns? So again, instead of just jumping to, hey, I know exactly what you need, really diving in through that question funnel. Can you help me understand specifically what is it that has you concerned? And, maybe the response is, we just worry with expenses going up and more income coming in. How are we going to afford to live if both of us get sick or one of us gets sick? And if we die or if we lose Social Security? And again, that's really where now you're understanding where that pain lies. If one of us dies, how's the other one going to be okay? Or if one of us gets sick or if we lose Social Security? So not just taking the first answer and moving on to the next question, going through that question funnel. Can you help me understand specifically? Tell me more about that. What we've discovered here, showing your experience. We work with people like you all the time, what we've discovered, and then repeating back. What I'm hearing is that accurate?
Well, in that example, you go from, oh, cool, maybe they need an annuity or something along those lines to maybe they need some sort of, permanent life insurance contract, because assuming that they're a little bit older in this sense, term may not make sense. So, making sure that they're protected in that way, or, in regards to getting sick or hurt, if they're not working still, then, maybe you're having a long-term care conversation. So that one follow-up question generated 2 additional opportunities that you can help them. And to be blunt, increase your ROI on the event because you're implementing, more products and services.
Right, exactly. So then, at the end, you can just end with, how would it make you feel to have a retirement income plan in place that would provide you with both inflation and long-term care protection? So again, you got that deeper level of detail by asking that next question. And again, I think all of us are guilty of this sometimes. You're like, oh, yeah, I work with advisors. I know what they need. But then you realize every single advisor is unique, and advisors need to realize every single client is unique. So really taking the time in that discovery process to learn more about them, their specific pain, and never make assumptions. And another area where we spend a lot of time with advisors is that second appointment, and really spending time painting a picture for the prospect between their current state and their desired state. So I think that's really important. And it's fairly easy to do if you do a good job in the discovery. You talk to them about, you told me it was important that, and you share with them what they told you was important. And that's a valid concern, because right now, if something did happen to you, David, your wife wouldn't be protected. She wouldn't have income, whatever it might be. So again, showing the current state, the desired state, and letting them know it is a valid concern, because there's a big gap between those two. So we spend a lot of time coaching around how you paint a very clear picture and really let people know that there's a gap there.
Love it. So we've talked about increasing conversion rates at every step in the process so far, which is registration to people who show up, to people who book an appointment to actually show up, and of the ones who show up, asking great questions to ultimately get them to become a client. So personally, I think that there is a ton of value in this episode, and I appreciate you spending some time giving us some of that insight. Before we start to wrap up the show, one of the things that I like to do on all the episodes is promote learning in the industry, specifically learning outside of our industry, because I think that there's so many good nuggets in some of the books that we referenced earlier, What Great Salespeople Do, Delivering Happiness, by Tony Hsieh. I'm a big believer in, personal development books, marketing books, psychology books. Think that not only does it help you as a professional, but it helps you as a person as well, a father, a mother, whatever role you have in your life, it helps that. And I find a lot of advisors who are continuously learning, a lot of them will do it inside the confines of our industry. So one question that I ask all of our guests is, what is one of their favorite books? And the one that you had mentioned is called Untamed by Glennon Doyle. So tell me a little bit about that book and why you chose that.
Yeah. First, David, that was such a tricky question. I mean, I was like, oh my goodness, I have to pick one book. And I was like, should I pick an industry book? I love reading fiction. So I'm like, should I just give him one of my favorite fiction books and tell him why I love it? But anyway, I did pick this one and I love it. So Untamed, it's a bit of like a memoir and a self-help book, I would say. And I really loved it because I do feel like Glennon, the author, got very, very vulnerable in there. She was very real with what was going on in her life. I think it's very relatable. I would say mostly to women who are partners, mothers, daughters, friends, employees, in every aspect of your life. And David, something that I really love when I read a book is something that makes me feel like a huge range of emotions, every emotion. And that's how I really felt when I read this book. There were points where I was laughing, points where I was crying, reflecting on it, rereading certain parts. I mean, I have quotes from the book that I refer back to. My friends we actually had a book club on the book. So my friends all read the book. Now we speak the same language to each other when we're struggling with something in our lives. Like, hey, Glennon says, sit with your knowing. And if you just sit, your knowing will tell you what to do. And so it's really nice to now have this common language that we speak to each other, because obviously, something she says in the book is the truest, most beautiful life never promises to be an easy one. We need to let go of the idea that it's supposed to be. And I think people need to get vulnerable with each other. Everyone has their own struggles, and it's okay. That's normal and that's life. And so that's why I love the book. And I think many people would benefit from reading it.
Love it. So I've noticed too that anytime I'm the most vulnerable, I feel like people connect with me very well. So I had made a post a year and a half or so ago, and kind of, things have been going well professionally and in business and in life in general. Very blessed with what I have going on in my life right now. But there was a point in time when I was early on in my career as an advisor, income was kind of lumpy because I was in sort of a eat what you kill type of model and, no salary or anything like that. I had this stack of credit cards. And when I would go out to eat or fill up my tank with gas, like I would have to go log on my banking account and figure out which one has enough limit to actually do that. And now, like when I travel, my carry-on, like my backpack, I keep that stack in there as a reminder of what life used to be, and grateful for the fact that I don't have to live like that, anymore. And I don't use any of those cards like I was at that point in time. And it's interesting. That's probably some of the highest engagement I've gotten on any of the social posts, which kind of proves the point of what you were just saying, which is when you're vulnerable, people can connect with you more because you do a good job of humanizing yourself in those instances. So absolutely. I appreciate you sharing your takeaways.
I love that you keep those cards. I mean, what a great way to stay grateful. And I mean, the reality is that's what a lot of the people we're working with are experiencing. That's good to remember. Like, hey, it's really hard. And the people who have it figured out and who are so effective and successful, I mean, they're very fortunate. It's really hard to get past that initial point where you are figuring out which credit card to use as a financial advisor is tough. So it's a good story, and it's great that you keep those as a reminder.
Appreciate it. So before we sign off, if people want to get in touch with you or get in touch with Simplicity, where can they go? Where do they connect with you? Where would you like to drive some people's attention?
Yeah, so I need to get better at my own social media, David, but I do have a LinkedIn account. I'm not super active on there, but it's one of my goals. So hopefully you'll start seeing me be more active on there, Natalie Grassi. And then email's great, Natalie, Natalie Grassi, Grassi at simplicitygroup.com. So yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone who wants to learn more about these strategies. I definitely provide some free consultation initially to see if there's any ways that I can help engage with advisors and help them overcome some of the challenges they're facing, as I said. So we'd love to hear from anyone who may be interested in connecting.
Awesome. So for those of you who are listening, if we're not connected yet, feel free to type in Model FA on Google. You'll see our website pop up, all of our social links, put out podcasts on a weekly basis, blogs typically on a monthly basis or so, a lot of great free content. And if you want to connect with me, same idea, just type in David Decelle on Google, DECELLE, and you'll see all my social links there as well. I'd say I'm most active and engaged on Instagram. So feel free to connect with me on that platform. And also, if you would be so kind as to leave a review on iTunes for us, we'd really appreciate that. And as a thank you for doing so, do me a favor and just screenshot that review once it's posted. And you can shoot me a text at 978-228-2338 and just send me that. And in the text portion, just type in Natalie so I know which episode it is in reference to. And Natalie had referenced asking great questions in the sales process. So we have a document that has over 100 questions that you can ask folks in that discovery process. And they're not like put in order. So it's more of like a bank of questions to pull from as you see fit. But if you're feeling stuck or struggling on, connecting with folks and uncovering the need and desire to actually work with you as their advisor, this document could be really helpful. So as a thank you, just go ahead, screenshot that review, shoot me a text at 978-228-2338. And I will shoot you an email with that document. But with that, Natalie, I'm grateful that Brad had connected us. I thought that you added a lot of value in today's episode. And given that we're both serving advisors in different capacities, interested and excited to see how we may collaborate moving forward. But I think the podcast is a great start. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm happy Brad connected us too, and I really enjoyed my time with you today. So thank you. And I'm going to go leave you a review, not for the questions, but because I appreciate your content. I told you I've been listening to your podcast now, and I've taken a lot of value. I just listened to your Jonathan Montgomery podcast. I love that. That's the most recent one I listened to. So you're getting some great people on who are providing a lot of value to people like me. So thank you.
Appreciate it. But as soon as we sign off, I will send you that document because I think it would be helpful as you're talking with advisors. So I'm going to give it to you anyways, but appreciate it. And we will chat soon.
Okay, thank you so much, David.
Awesome. Take care.